In the early hours of January 23rd, 1945, a lone American submarine, the USS Barb, audaciously crept into a Japanese anchorage and launched a surprise attack on the massed ranks of 2 enemy convoys. As torpedoes struck their targets and caused chaos across the bay, Barb's captain attempted a dramatic escape, doing everything he could to evade hostile escort ships in water that was barely deeper than the submarine itself. By the second half of January 1945, the Barb was weeks into its 11th war patrol off the eastern coast of China. This was one of the busiest areas in the whole of the Pacific for Japanese shipping, with large convoys travelling to and from the Empire's remaining occupied territories, making it a prime target for American submarines. The Japanese ships did everything they could to avoid contact with American sea or air power, sticking as close as they could to the coast and spending every night in protected anchorages. Submarines usually prefer to operate in deep water, but Flucky was not to be deterred, with Barb blending in with Chinese fishing vessels in order to get close to the coast during broad daylight to try and gain contact with the enemy. On the afternoon of January 22nd, the submarine's lookout spotted a convoy approaching from the north. This was Mochi Takao 32, which was on its way south to the Philippines. Flucky and his crew tracked the convoy and then raced southwards, hoping to intercept it at a point further south once darkness fell. Barb reached the intended intercept location by 8 PM. This close to the coast, the depth of the water underneath the Barb was only 30 feet, so Flucky cut the boat's engines and laid it on the seabed, hoping that the Japanese escorts would sail right over the top and mistake Barb for a rock when they picked it up on sonar, allowing Barb to infiltrate the very heart of the convoy. But the minutes passed and there was no sign of the enemy. By 9:20 it was obvious that the convoy must have anchored somewhere for the night or turned out to sea. Barb set off northwards to try and find it.
This video is sponsored by War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, available for free on PC, consoles and mobile devices.
You can take command of over 2,500 detailed tanks, planes, helicopters and ships, ranging from biplanes to fighter jets and much more. War Thunder's incredibly detailed vehicles, realistic graphics and authentic sound effects place you right at the helm of the most powerful war machines of the last 100 years. Join over 70 million players in epic PvP battles today.
Sign up to play with my links in the description and pinned comment and claim your massive bonus pack for PC and consoles.
The pack includes multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 silver lions and 7 days of premium account. This offer is only available for a limited time, so hurry and claim your rewards. After hours of searching, at 1:11 AM, Barb's radar picked up distant contacts in Namkwan Bay to the northwest that looked like ships. As they got closer, the contacts got clearer, eventually resolving into 27 different merchant ships, a colossal target. Unknown to Flucky and his crew, not only was the convoy they had tracked earlier holed up in Namkwan, but also a second convoy which had been pushing northwards at the same time, creating a doubly rich target. But by 2:40 AM, the Americans were also close enough to make out the escort ships, of which there were at least 3. Slipping by these to get an attack on the convoy would not be easy, especially as the water in the harbour was so shallow that Barb would have to sail on the surface throughout. But Flucky was not to be put off. Leaving another group of fishing boats behind, he took Barb towards the coast. By this time, one of the escorts could be observed circling a group of nearby islands. Shortly before 3 AM it sped by less than 7,000 yards away, but did not spot the submarine in the darkness. Commander Flucky paused to wait for the Japanese escort to disappear around the far side of the islands, and then seeing his opportunity ordered all ahead emergency speed. Barb surged into the bay. As the boat rounded the islands, the convoy came into vision. 27 merchant ships anchored in neat parallel lines, 10 miles dead ahead. Flucky addressed his crew over the tannoy as the boat galloped through the water. "Men, We've successfully entered Namkwan harbour undetected. We've got the biggest target of the war in front of us. Our approach is starting. Make ready all tubes. I figure the odds are 10 to 1 in our favour. Man battle station's torpedoes. By 3:52 AM, Barb was in the perfect position, with the closest Japanese escort completely oblivious to their presence, and the convoy bunched up so perfectly ahead of them that it would be harder to miss. At 4:02 AM, Barb loosed 4 torpedoes from its bow tubes and then immediately swung around to starboard to fire 4 more from its stern tubes. It took 4 minutes for the torpedoes to cover the distance to their targets, and then all hell broke loose. Explosions were reported on 2 merchant ships within seconds of each other, with large fires seen breaking out on board. A third freighter was hit a minute later at 4:07, followed by 2 more at 4:08, and a final large explosion in the distant third line at 4:09 that was believed to be a munition ship detonating. By this point, searchlights had snapped on across the Japanese convoy, and Barb picked up that enemy air search radar had been turned on, indicating the enemy believed they were being bombed, not attacked by torpedoes. For a brief moment, the submarine's crew believed they might have gotten clean away, but then the hostile escort closest to them altered course towards Barb and increased speed. The gap was 6,000 yards, and the chase was on. Submarines were not designed to outpace surface escorts, so even after Flucky called for full speed, the gap was dropping. By 4:20 AM, the Japanese ship was just 3,600 yards away and closing fast. Facing being reeled in and easily sunk, Flucky ordered his engine room to overload the engines to 150% power and tie down the failsafes, preventing the engines from shutting down come what may. Barb surged through the water, increasing to a speed of 23.5 knots, probably a new speed record for submarines. This burst of speed stabilised the situation, with the gap to the escort sitting at 3,200 yards by 4:30, but Barb could not keep this up for long. Soon the bearings on the engines began to melt, as its machinery strained to provide the speed demanded. But at 4:36, with the range down to just 2,700 yards and Barb on the verge of having to fight it out, another group of Chinese fishing vessels suddenly appeared out of the darkness dead ahead, just 900 yards away. With no time to stop or avoid the group entirely, Barb had to swerve its way through them at high speed, somehow managing to avoid a collision amid dramatic changes in course. But as the submarine pressed through the formation, its radar signature merged with that of the boats, and the Japanese opened fire at 4:38, believing they had managed to catch up with the Barb. As the fishermen took the punishment that had been intended for the American boat, Flucky and his crew sped away into the night, having narrowly escaped the clutches of their pursuers. After the raid, Barb's crew reckoned they had sunk 3 ships and damaged at least 4 others, and their report caused a sensation. It brought the total number of ships sunk on this patrol to 8 and led to a message from Vice Admiral Charles Lockwood, commander of Pacific submarines, that hailed probably the best conducted patrol of the war. On Barb's return to the US for refit, Commander Flucky was awarded the Medal of Honor for the raid on Namkwan. After the end of the war, the Joint Army-Navy Assessment Committee could only trace 1 ship confirmed sunk at Namkwan, so there is some doubt over exactly how many were damaged or sunk that night. Flucky, for his part, found eyewitnesses after the war who reported seeing 4 ships sunk. The exact figure will probably never be known for sure, but what is definitely not in doubt is the courage and skill of the submarine crew, who had pulled off an incredibly daring attack with absolutely no margin for error. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to play for free on PC, consoles or mobiles, and use my link in the description to claim your bonus pack, including multiple premium vehicles. Available for a limited time only, so make sure not to miss it.